You know, if you really want to pinpoint where English literature as we know it began, you have to go back to the late 14th century. This was the Age of Chaucer, and it was, without a doubt, the very first great age of English poetry. It's the moment everything started to change.
And right at the center of it all is this guy Chaucer, Geoffrey Chaucer. He's got this huge title, right? The father of English poetry. But what does that even mean? Why him? What on earth did he do to earn a nickname like that? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
But before we can get to Chaucer's genius, we have to understand the world he lived in. And let me tell you, it was not a quiet time. The 14th century was an age of incredible chaos, a period of massive, earth-shaking change that turned English society completely upside down.
I mean, just think about what was going on. You've got the 100 Years' War kicking off, which started to give people a real sense of being English, not just subjects of some French-speaking king. Then, the absolute horror of the Black Death sweeps in and just decimates the population. And out of that, you get the Peasants' Revolt, where for the first time, regular people are standing up and demanding their rights. This wasn't just some background noise, this was the fire in which a whole new England was being forged.
1/3. Just take a second and let that number sink in. 1/3 of the entire population. Gone. An event that catastrophic doesn't just change things, it shatters them. All the old rules, the rigid feudal system, the unquestionable power of the church, all of it started to crack. This huge, tragic loss of life created a kind of power vacuum, an opening where new ideas, and more importantly, new voices, could finally start to be heard.
So in the middle of all this social chaos, another kind of revolution was happening. This one wasn't fought with swords and arrows, but with words. See, for hundreds of years, the language of power in England wasn't English, and that was all about to change.
For ages, the country was linguistically split. Ever since the Norman conquest, if you were in the royal court or the nobility, you spoke French. If you were in the church or a scholar, you used Latin. English, that was seen as the rough language of the common folk. But the 14th century was the comeback. English started to climb the ladder, going from the language of the people to the language of a new, unified English nation.
And this is where Chaucer makes his game-changing move. He made a deliberate choice. He decided to write his incredible poetry in English, and not just any English, but the specific dialect spoken in London. By doing that, he basically proved to everyone that English could be just as beautiful, complex, and powerful as French or Latin. He took the people's language and made it art, and in doing so, he helped create the foundation for the English we're all speaking right now.
Now, Chaucer was definitely the headliner, no doubt about it. But it's so important to remember he wasn't a solo act. He was part of this bigger explosion of creativity, with other amazing writers right there with him, all pushing the limits of what this reborn English language could do.
It's kind of like a literary supergroup, right? You've got Chaucer, the absolute master of realistic characters and brilliant humor. Then you have William Langland, whose poem Piers Plowman was this searing critique of social injustice. You've got John Wycliffe, this radical religious thinker who translates the Bible into English for the very first time, a huge deal for both religion and prose. And you have John Gower, a buddy of Chaucer's, writing this very elegant moral poetry. The point is, English wasn't just for one thing anymore. It was being used for protest, for reform, for entertainment. It was proving it could do it all. Okay, so that brings us back to the main man himself. Once you understand the crazy times he lived in, the huge shift in language, and the other writers around him, you can finally appreciate the true scale of what Chaucer pulled off. You can see why his legacy is so massive. He was a total trailblazer. He brought a kind of realism to the page that was brand new, writing about people who felt real, flawed, funny, and complicated. He basically perfected the rhythm of iambic pentameter, which became the heartbeat of English poetry for hundreds of years. I mean, Shakespeare, Pope, they're all using Chaucer's playbook. He, more than anyone, put English on the map as a serious literary language. And his Canterbury Tales, wow. It's like a perfect photograph of his entire world, filled with so much life and humor. And this quote, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? His work isn't just a bunch of great stories. It's the sound of a whole culture figuring out who it is. It's the moment English literature found its swagger and started speaking in a voice that was powerful and uniquely its own. So, I'll just leave you with this to chew on. If Chaucer hadn't done the hard work first, if he hadn't lifted up the English language, perfected its poetic rhythms, and proved it could create great art, would Shakespeare's plays have sounded anything like they do? It's a question that really drives home just how vital he was. He wasn't just a poet, he was the architect of an entire literary future,